The Halloween season is fast approaching, so today we're going to talk about 10 spooky movies for you to add to your watch list. This list includes 2 brand new releases that just hit theaters, some older gems that I just discovered, and a few other movies that I just wanted to recommend. My name is Daniel with the Cobwebs channel, and let's get started with the movie you're probably the most interested to hear about, and that is Weapons from 2025.
One night, 17 kids walked outside, and they never came back.
When all but one child from the same class mysteriously vanishes on the same night at exactly the same time, a community is left questioning who or what is behind their disappearance. So this is the big new horror release from director Zach Cregger, a comedian turned horror filmmaker who made Barbarian a few years ago. And I'm a huge fan of Barbarian. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. So this is one I've absolutely been looking forward to, though I can't say it was one of my top most anticipated movies of the year, probably because I just had no idea what the heck it was. But I went to see it last night, and I gotta say, it absolutely blew away all of my expectations, and it is the better film than even Barbarian. First of all, I just loved the storytelling of this. The film is told in different chunks from the perspective of different characters within this town. It's one of those small town horror movies that really feels like it's from the point of view of the whole community. It's got so many great actors playing really interesting characters. Julia Gardner and Josh Brolin are most at the center. They are fantastic. I love them as a pair in this. But then you've got all these other great people, and it was interesting that like every time it started a new perspective, like a new chapter, I was almost a little bit disappointed because I was so interested in the last chunk, and I was like, I want to see that keep going. Is this character going to be as interesting? But every time they are. Ultimately, this is a mystery, and it's really intriguing, and I was fascinated going along with this story, trying to find out why did these kids all run out of their house at the same time on the same night? Where did they all go? And it's one of those mysteries that's so intriguing. The whole time I was thinking the payoff is probably not going to be as interesting, because I've seen a lot of mysteries like that. You probably have too. They ask a lot of great questions. They don't necessarily have great answers. And this is another one of those horror movies where the subgenre it fits into is a secret. This is a new thing, and I feel like nobody else is talking about this, how back in the day, when a horror movie came out, you knew what it was. Like, you knew if it was a slasher or a vampire movie or a ghost movie, like, you knew in the marketing. Now there's so many horror films that come out that, like, are so spoiler phobic, you're not allowed to know what they're about. But I do think it works in Weapons' favor that you don't know going in, and what I can say is, it's a subgenre I love. It's a really, really good version of it. And the answers to the questions are everything I could have hoped them to be. This is a mystery that pays off 100%. It's a movie that just keeps getting better as it goes. Like, I just can't wait till more people see this and what it is more out there and we can all talk about it. That's going to be so fun. But for now, I will absolutely keep it under wraps and say Weapons is an epic horror experience. It is legitimately scary to me. It is intense. It is gory and violent at times, but it really favors mystery, intrigue, and dread over violence 99% of the time. And I legitimately love everything about Weapons. It's the first movie this year I've given 5 stars to, and it is easily my top horror film of 2025 so far. Next, let's go to a much older movie that I just discovered, and one that you could actually do a double feature with Weapons for, and that is Lemora, A Child's Tale of the Supernatural from 1973.
Little girl, where are you hiding? If you don't come out, I'll get Lemora.
This is one I've been meaning to check out for a long time, and now that I've seen it, I can tell you, this movie is weird. It is a really weird film. Like, it's almost surprising to me that this is an American movie because the weirdness of it feels so European, but it almost feels like a gothic Alice in Wonderland where a young, innocent girl is just kind of going down a dark rabbit hole of weirdness into this other world There is such an artifice to this movie as soon as she starts her journey to go visit her father, where everything feels like a flimsy set. It almost feels like you're watching community theater, but in a movie. And I know some people will say the movie sucks because of that, and I would understand, I really would. But I would say, like, they're really just trying to create this otherworldly atmosphere, and I think they do it. She discovers vampires, these zombie werewolf-like creatures that some vampires end up de-evolving into. As far as criticisms with the movie, I wish more of it felt like this Alice in Wonderland kind of thing. At a certain point, she gets into a house with Lemora, the vampire queen that has all these vampire children around her, and we spend a lot of time in there, and I kind of wish there was more of a journey throughout the whole thing. It feels like it's mainly about adult predators preying on children. Almost every man our child protagonist Lila comes in contact with hits on her, which is so creepy. The vampire woman is fixated on her for some kind of dark ceremony, and she's already has this horde of vampire children she's already preyed upon, like I said. So it feels like gross and creepy in a lot of ways, but in that way it does kind of accomplish being like this dark fairy tale that teaches children if they go into the woods, they will find dark horrors that will be their doom.
A house that holds a memory of a death is the staying place of a rotted ghost.
I am the pretty thing that lives in the house, from 2016. A young nurse takes care of an elderly author who lives in a haunted house. So I'm gonna get real with you guys. Lately, I've been feeling like this addict who's just craving dark, period piece haunted house films. And that's why I checked this out. It's actually the first film from director Oz Perkins. I've been very vocal about being a huge fan of him on this channel, and I still never checked out his first movie. Now I have, and I gotta say, it is good. It's very good at building atmosphere, at building dread. It's technically not a period piece, but it feels very classical in most ways. The aging woman is an author who's written all these spooky horror books like back in the 50s, 60s. So it's got a little bit of that vintage pulp novel feeling to it. But the main criticism about this movie that I've read is that it is slow. And yes, it is. It is a slow movie. I'm definitely not going to deny that. But for me, I'm just really on Oz Perkins' wavelength, and I just love his style of building atmosphere and dread, so I don't feel bored when I'm watching him do that kind of thing, even though I think all of his movies he's made since this are less slow, so take that into consideration before you decide to check it out. But I also just loved how this film treats ghosts. It has got an incredible, like, game changer level monologue about the nature of ghosts, what they truly are. It's got this beautiful opening line that says, "A house with a death in it can never be bought or sold by the living. It can only be borrowed by the ghosts that have stayed behind." That just gives me chills, and the whole monologue is that kind of a feeling. And the ghost imagery we get is very creepy, but always in a very subtle way. This movie totally refuses to have any big Hollywood moments, but the small moments it has are very effective. But next I want to recommend a haunted house movie on the polar opposite end of the spectrum, and that is 13 Ghosts from 2001. This is from Dark Castle Entertainment, who at this point was doing a lot of remakes of 50s, 60s movies, and this is a remake of William Castle's 1960 classic, which is a movie that I like. I have some fun with. I like the vibe of it because I like that kind of movie, but it's hardly one of my favorite black and white chillers or one of my favorite William Castle movies. I actually like this remake more. It is the total opposite kind of movie, like I said, of I Am the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House, because it is an absolute assault of horror imagery. There are so many ghosts. The ghosts look so crazy, so wild, so creative. You see them throughout the whole movie, so there isn't a second of subtlety in this entire thing. The special effects all work. There's a lot of really cool practical work, makeup, and prosthetic work. I think the only problem someone could have with it is that there's just too many of those great effects. And it's not even just the ghosts, because all the performances are big and crazy. Tony Shalhoub, Mr. Monk himself, is actually here at the lead. His teenage daughter is played by Shannon Elizabeth, who doesn't even look slightly like a teenager, but whatever, we'll go with it. And you got Matthew Lillard, who's in a totally different movie from everyone else, way more over the top than anything else in the film is, even the ghosts, and that's part of the charm. You gotta love 2001 Matthew Lillard. I really think the early 2000s was a fun, goofy time for popcorn horror, just really maximalist movies that went for it in every way. Saw changed that in 2004 when everything got way more dark, realistic, and disturbing. But at this point, horror was in a goofy place. I enjoy it. I like these Dark Castle movies. I really like 13 Ghosts.
So we'll start. Mom?
Strange Harvest from 2025. This is another brand new release that just hit theaters, and unfortunately by the time I make this video, it's probably going to be gone from theaters. But I bet it's going to hit streaming really soon, and I've been looking forward to it from a long time. I heard about it from people who went to festivals last year about how great it was. Basically, it's about a bunch of detectives who are thrust into a hunt for Mr. Shiny, a sadistic serial killer from the past whose return marks the beginning of a new wave of grotesque, otherworldly crimes tied to a dark cosmic force. The interesting thing about this is it's a mockumentary. Basically, it looks, feels in every way like a true crime documentary, like a real one that you check out on Netflix or something like that. The only difference is it's totally fiction. Everything in here is completely fake. But it's so convincing. It feels so real. All the actors are spectacularly good because they do not draw attention to the fact that they're acting at all. They just feel like normal people. And the murders are so chilling and scary. The mystery is so intriguing. And the fact that it's all fake and didn't really happen allows them to go supernatural in certain ways. And I've said before that, like, I'm not super interested in serial killers. I don't tend to be really into serial killer stuff, but I am more interested in it when it's more occulty. And Strange Harvest is really occulty, very witchy. And I thought that was awesome. I loved the style to it. I like found footage movies, but I am by far the biggest found footage fan when it's in this mockumentary style. I love these fake documentary type movies, but even though it is in that style, it does find an excuse for there to be a camera during a couple of kills, so you still get some kill scenes, but they don't feel fun like standard slasher killer scenes. Because the killer's been so built up through this, he feels so evil and so elusive. I mean, when he shows up on screen, it is bone chilling. I was at the edge of my seat. I was so curious what was going to happen. I was so interested in the wild directions that it took. And I saw it in theaters in a big auditorium completely alone. Creepy. It was a great experience. Biozombie from 1998. Two punks driving to work at a mall accidentally hit a man who had drunk a soda laced with a chemical that turns people into zombies. This is the Hong Kong horror film that I actually bought from Vinegar Syndrome. And by the way, I hear you guys in the comments always saying, this guy's obsessed with Vinegar Syndrome. Every time I talk about Vinegar Syndrome, I like that company. I like to pick up their stuff. I love to discover movies that way. And Biozombie is another example of why. This is a really fun Hong Kong zombie movie. For one thing, it all takes place in a mall, so you get that 90s mall kind of a feel. The film is super 90s. Like, even though it takes place in a totally different country than me, it was still very recognizable as a super 90s kind of vibe, which made it nostalgic and silly and made it a lot of fun. It's actually about half the movie before the zombie stuff really kicks into gear, and I didn't care. I was having fun hanging out at the mall. I actually thought the characters, while they seemed kind of obnoxious at the start, endeared me to them very quickly, and I actually really liked them. And by the end of the movie, I felt like ride or die for them. I was like, these people have got to make it out of this thing alive because I like them too much. I really think characters are super important for zombie movies because I don't think zombies are super interesting on their own. I think zombies provide a situation for characters to deal with. So the characters, you gotta like them. This movie really hits that. But the zombie stuff is really good. They've got very gross radiation poisoning kind of a look to them. There's a zombie fighting action scene in a parking garage that's kind of epic. I did find myself wishing the movie was a little grosser, a little gorier. I kind of expected it to be, and it's a little more tame in that way. But I like following these characters. I like the vibe of it. Biozombie's fun. Next, let's talk about one of my favorite 80s movies that I also discovered because of physical media, and that is Alone in the Dark from 1982. It's about a group of murderous psychopaths who break out of a mental hospital during a power blackout and lay siege on their doctor's house. This is a Jack Shoulder directed cult classic that I had wanted to see for so many years, but it was totally unavailable. And then Scream Factory announced they were putting it out. I pre-ordered it, I got it right away, and I love discovering this movie. It's got that great 80s slasher vibe, and it's very autumnal too. So this time of year, you're probably really gonna enjoy seeing all of the orange trees, the fall leaves that are all through this film. And the characters are likable. You get to follow this doctor and his family as they try to survive this group of psychos. And there's an amazing cast here. Donald Pleasance is the main guy at the hospital, and two of the psychopaths are Jack Palance and Martin Landau. I mean, they are a joy to watch here, especially Jack Palance. So much fun. And this Jason Voorhees looking killer. It's got pretty much all of those slasher tropes that you enjoy, those 80s vibes that you're looking for, but it really is a more legitimately well-made film than a lot of its contemporaries. Beautifully shot. Like I said, great cast. The acting is very good, and it's legitimately intense as it goes. One of my favorites.
There's nothing like a vacation to give your spirits a lift. High Spirits.
High Spirits from 1988. This has got such a fun premise. It's got a scenery-chewing Peter O'Toole starring as a hotel owner who tries to fill all of their vacancies and save their business by launching an advertising campaign that falsely portrays the property as haunted. But when two actual ghosts show up, things go crazy. Essentially, this is a horror screwball comedy that a lot of you guys in the comments have been recommending this to me for months, so I'm really glad I finally checked it out. I enjoyed it. It's fun, it's funny, much because of Peter O'Toole. I love watching the scheme that he puts together. It is interesting watching him lying to everyone how it's haunted, and people get upset when they realize he's lied, when in reality, he probably could have just advertised that like, it's a show, it's an amusement park kind of thing where we just make you feel like you're in a haunted house with all the various contraptions and booby traps and actors he has all lined up to make them feel like they're haunted. I mean, that sounds fun to me. I would absolutely book a room there. But it's one of those movies where everything around the main characters is great, like especially Meg Tilly and Peter Gallagher as just an adorable couple of characters that they were an absolute joy anytime they were on screen. But the true main characters are Steve Guttenberg and Beverly D'Angelo as a couple in a failing marriage, and Daryl Hannah, a ghost who Guttenberg falls in love with. And I didn't really care for all the stuff with them, to be honest. Like, I did not care about the romance between Guttenberg and Hannah at all. I so did not buy their instant connection. And it almost feels like a little bit gross and sleazy how it becomes kind of a wife swapping thing, because Daryl Hannah's ghost husband is actually Liam Neeson. So here you can watch a Liam Neeson comedy and then go to the theater and watch him in The Naked Gun. But all that stuff was like, fine, it was okay, but it's all the stuff in the margins, all the side characters that made me really enjoy this, and just the atmosphere. The vibe of this haunted castle is exactly the kind of vibe that you're going to want for just a fun, silly Halloween season movie night. And the film even takes place on All Hallows Eve, because it's the one night that ghosts become flesh, because the veil between the living and the dead is at its thinnest. I can always appreciate a movie that remembers that kind of lore.
You have no idea what is coming.
Satanic Hispanics from 2022. This is a horror anthology that I actually watched within the past month or so because I was preparing for my video on my top horror anthologies of all time, and it didn't end up making the list, so I still haven't talked about it, but I still liked it, so I wanted to throw it on this list here. Essentially, it's a Hispanic-themed anthology where all of the segments kind of center around that culture, and I think they're all directed by different Hispanic directors. Like, the first segment is actually by Damien Rugna, who made When Evil Lurks, and that's probably the best single segment. Really cool, like, ritual to summon ghosts kind of thing. Very spooky, great imagery. Really fun, funny, over-the-top segment about this guy who has to get this special weapon to defeat an evil deity, but it did not make my top 20 anthologies because it's just very uneven. There's a couple of segments that I didn't really so much care for. Like one comedy one about a vampire that's okay, it's slight, a little bit fun. And another one about an occult ritual, which I should really like, but just had like no human story around it to make me care. But I think what really drove it home that I do like this film, and I gave it 3.5 stars on Letterboxd, is the wraparound is actually really good. And it leads to an ending that hits really hard and has a fantastic monster design and effect. So the movie hits at the end for sure, and does make me forget the lulls that it has. Being uneven is very normal for an anthology, so it's a pretty normal one with some actually pretty high highs. Sleepwalkers from 1992, which follows a shape-shifting mother and son duo who feed on the life force of young women until a small-town girl and her cat uncover their deadly secret. For this last spot, I just wanted to recommend a really fun movie that I think you should check out or rewatch this Halloween season, and Sleepwalkers is such a good one. Now, this film always has kind of a special place in my heart because years ago, a certain YouTuber, you know what, I'm just gonna call him out because now he's a big director and he's got a movie coming out this year that I'm excited to watch. Chris Stuckman. Chris Stuckman years ago made a video making fun of how terrible this movie is, and I remember being like so offended by that and just being like, how dare you besmirch the name of Sleepwalkers, which is, you know, funny looking back on it. But I do love this movie, no matter how goofy and silly it is. It's a Stephen King film that actually he wrote directly for the screen. This is not actually based on any book or short story. And it just kind of shows that, like, Stephen King with film is just so much goofier than he generally is on the page. And I love that. It's a silly movie about cat monsters, incestuous cat monsters, by the way, which is super weird and creepy. Like, the mother cat is actually played by Alice Krige, who is always good in villainous roles and any other kind of roles, really. She's just awesome. And I love Machen Amick in the lead. She is so adorable, just like a perfect girl next door kind of a thing. So you've got this cute romance that, of course, ends up being horribly doomed. Cat monsters, ridiculous special effects, and tons of cameos. Mick Garris directed this, but he filled it with just so many cameos that are so fun to see, like Toby Hooper and Mark Hamill, Clive Barker, Joe Dante. It's just kind of like an Easter egg filled who's who for horror fans. And I just think it's got so much energy and it's a blast from start to finish. So I love Sleepwalkers. If it's been a while since you've seen it, or if you've never seen it, let this be the spooky season. Before I go, I just want to send out a massive thank you to my patrons who truly make this channel possible. If anyone else wants to support me, there's always a link to my Patreon in the description below. And I want to give a special shout out to Bradford Wallach, Greg Newmeyer, and Geriatric Gen X Grandpa. You guys are the absolute best. If you want to check these films out for yourself, I do have streaming recommendations right here on the screen. Of course, some of these movies are still in theaters, and some you can still only get on physical media. So I've got physical media links in the description, and using them does help support the channel. If you want to hang out with me more, you can click on the video right here on the screen, and make sure you subscribe for lots of spooky season content we're going to be doing all the way through Halloween. Thank you all so much. Don't forget to enjoy yourselves today, have some fun, and I'll see you next time. Bye.